what Bernie has meant to me. It was Bernie's campaign for the presidency in 2016 that gave me the language of democratic socialism to describe my politics. And it was Bernie's Queensbridge rally on October 19th, 2019. That was the first political event of my campaign for state assembly. Now, I was unbeknownst to Bernie and his team, we were canvassing the line to get into his rally, asking for $1, $5, $10, emails, whatever we could. And we did that, and we walked inside to this rally, and I remember the electrifying feeling we felt of a campaign reborn and a movement reborn alongside every single borough of this city. And when Bernie walked out to Back in Black by AC/DC, those who were there remember, we felt as if possibility was a fact of life. And his campaign continued to inspire so many of us. And as I ran for state assembly for the many months beyond that, we continued to look to him and his campaign and his vision as the compass for the work that we wanted to do in electoral politics. And we know that in that motto of Burlington is not for sale, we see echoes in our own struggle today, where we have to say that New York City is not for sale. Not for sale to Donald Trump's billionaire donors. It is not for sale to corporations like DoorDash. It is not for sale to corrupt politicians like Andrew Cuomo. And Bernie has continued to lead in this movement, going from Burlington is not for sale to fighting back against oligarchy coast to coast in this country. And that fight, not just against oligarchy, but for democracy, is a fight that has energized tens of thousands of Americans across this country. It has shown once again that politics is something that can be powered by ordinary people, with not just a rejection of authoritarianism, but a belief in what is possible as well.
As part of our Fighting Oligarchy tour, which Zohran is joining me on tonight, we have now been to 21 states. We have done 35 events for over 300,000 people from Maine to California. What I can tell you without any fear of hesitation is the American people in red states and in blue states do not want to live in an oligarchic society. They do not want to live in an authoritarian society. They do not want the White House to be practicing unprecedented kleptocracy. And they sure as hell do not want to see a continuation of the oligarchs' war against the working class of this country. What Zohran's campaign is about is an understanding that today we are living in an unprecedented moment in the modern history of our country, and we have got to fight back in an unprecedented. Today in America, We have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of America. Zohran just talked about children in New York City and in Vermont who are hungry, people who are homeless, and yet the wealthiest 1% have never had it so good. If you can believe it, today you have, and it's important that we feel the outrage of children going hungry, people being homeless, 85 million without health care. And you got one guy, Mr. Musk, whose own wealth is more than the bottom 52% of American households. And you may have seen in the papers, they want to give him a little bonus. Another $800–900 billion. We are living in crazy world. Millions of people struggling to put food on the table, and making one guy a trillionaire is insane. Not what this country is supposed to be about, and we are not going to allow that. You have 6 major media conglomerates that control in this country what 90% of our people see, hear, and read. It is not an accident, brothers and sisters, that Mr. Musk owns Twitter. Not an accident that Mr. Zuckerberg owns Meta, which is Instagram and Facebook. Not an accident that Mr. Ellison recently bought Paramount, which owns CBS. Not an accident that Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post and Twitch. Not an accident that our good friend Rupert Murdoch owns the New York Post, Wall Street Journal, and right-wing publications all over the world. Bottom line, never before in American and in fact world history have so few people had so much wealth and economic power. And with this development of AI, which is a whole world unto itself, they're going to have, unless we stop them, more concentration of ownership and more power. But it's not just the economy that these guys control. And that is what we're seeing and what makes this particular campaign of interest worldwide. These guys control, especially since the disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. We have a situation where it is perfectly legal for billionaires to set up super PACs and spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars supporting candidates who protect the interests of the rich and defeating candidates who are trying to represent working families. So in other words, what you are seeing now is an oligarchy with enormous economic power and enormous political power in both political parties. Campaign is about, and why it is so enormously important. Is it a test case? It is a test case of whether or not democracy is still able to prevail. And you know what else they're afraid? They have, because they control media, political life, and economic life, they control in many ways the culture of America. And this is what the culture today is about. It's about walking the streets of America and finding people sleeping out on the street. It's about seeing 60% of our people living paycheck to paycheck, while the people on top are becoming phenomenally rich. And what the culture says basically is, you are powerless. There is nothing you can do about it because the oligarchs own it all. They have unbelievable wealth. They have power. They own the media. They own the political system. You are powerless. And what we are here tonight to say is, to hell with you. We're going to take you on. We're going to... change this incredibly unfair and unjust status quo. The point is, you've been sold a bill of goods. You've been told that this is the best America can be. You've been told that it's okay for a few to have unbelievable wealth while 60% struggle to put food on the table and pay their rent. You've been told that it's okay that we got kids all over this country who give up the dream of a higher education because they can't afford it and don't want to go deeply into debt. You've been told that it is okay for working class parents to have to spend 30–40% of their limited incomes on child care. That's what you've been told. Well, what Zohran is telling you and what I am telling you tonight, that is a crock of dash. Here is the story. They don't want to get out. In the richest country in the history of the world, it is not a radical idea to say that every man, woman, and child in America can have a decent standard of living. It's not radical to say that we can have a vibrant democracy by getting rid of Citizens United and moving the public funding away. It's not radical to say that the billionaire class has got to start paying their fair share of taxes. It is not radical to say that health care is a human right, not a privilege. And that we should not be the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child. It is not radical to say that we should have the best educational system from child care to graduate school in the world. It is not radical to say that we should not have the highest rate of childhood poverty, the highest rate of senior poverty of almost any major country on earth.
A reality in New York City, because I would love to give up his siblings. I would love to take her off.
You know, Bernie was saying earlier that we have to feel the depth of these statistics that we often grow numb to. We recite them, we read them, we know them, and yet we often do not feel them. How much money did you say you spend a year on childcare? Over $32,000. Over $32,000. That is more money than if Diana sent that same kid 18 years from now to Brooklyn College. That is more money. And that is why, after housing, childcare is the leading cost that is pushing New Yorkers out of the city, pushing them out of the state.
I'd like to just very briefly put in a positive here what Zohran said. I'm sorry. What I just wanted to say in terms of the woman's point, we have got to not only change our national priorities. I'll give you an example. In Congress right now, I will vote against a $150 billion increase in military spending. But can you imagine, at a time we already spend more than the next 10 nations combined, $150 billion for Trump's military, but apparently we don't have enough money to provide quality child care to our children. We must not ever for 1 second accept that. That is insane.
I wear this hat, and I say this in this moment, because the point that is being raised is that we are seeing faculty members who are facing not just discipline, but termination for the crime of expressing solidarity with the fight for Palestinian human rights. And I know that this is a repression that is not unique to Brooklyn College. It is a repression that extends even to the ways in which we choose when to send police officers onto college campuses. The incident around encampments here at Brooklyn College, the decision to surge officers into that site is one that leaves students less safe than they were before. And that is why I have said, as a mayor who will live up to Eric Adams, of all people, statement in 2021, that New Yorkers need not choose between safety and justice, that I will be committed to delivering actual safety, not to the use of the term as a means of repression. And so this commitment is one that I do not just make as a candidate, it is also one that I will fulfill as the mayor of this city.
We are taking on a demagogue, and demagogues do several things. One of the things they do is engage in the big lie. They lie all of the time, and they, with their big lie, whether it is in vaccines, whether it's what happened on January 2021, whether it's not, whether in fact Trump won the election in 2020, they engage in big lies. That's what demagogues do. And we've got to fight them every way that we can. And one of the good things is I am seeing on the internet a lot of young people doing podcasts right now who are talking truth to power. But you got to fight back. Because the cornerstone of what Trumpism is about is a big lie, and you're right. Hello, there are a lot of people raising their hands, all right? Please don't shout. Do our best. But just want to comment on one point, and I want everybody to understand this in their souls. You are living in the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child. Over 40% of Americans who are struggling with cancer go bankrupt or deplete their life savings. That's 500,000 people go bankrupt because of medical bills. That is cruel, immoral, absurd. And despite all of that, we're spending, talk about efficiency. We're spending twice as much per capita on healthcare as the people in any other country. We should have the best gold standard healthcare system in the world, not one of the worst. So that's a fight we've got to wage and not ever give up on.
Hi, Senator Sanders, you're my hero. I canvass for you, and I'll do it again. And Mamdani, depending on how you answer this question, me and my children will canvass for you too. So my question is that, I'm so thankful for everything you said. We've called out every issue, every community. You've stood for my family. I'm third generation. My grandma, projects, Brooklyn, my dad. And I feel like you've stood up for our family. I got to go to CUNY and all these things. And as a Black woman in New York, I feel privileged because there are Native, we all say we're Native New Yorkers, but there are the original Native New Yorkers, the Lenape people, who are the original chosen spirits of who we are. I'm part of a CUNY Indigenous Sovereignty Collective. I'm an Indigenous rights activist. And I tell you that they are still here. They're still trying to come home. We talk about the kids here. What about the kids from here?
You know, I think one thing that has frustrated me is the idea that by acknowledging that betrayal, we have then done the work of actually reckoning with it. If the entirety of our commitment to people who are native to this city, to this state, to this country is simply an acknowledgement, that is insufficient. And I have spoken often about the universal commitment that we have across this city, but it will also take a lens to understand what are the specific ways in which we've let people down. What are the specific ways in which we have refused to learn from our own history? And I will tell you with honesty that there is so much for me to learn and for so many of us to learn about the ways we can actually meet that requirement. And I tell you this because oftentimes in politics it's seen as if we have a theory of one great person who simply has all of the ideas. They're coming to deliver us into the future that we deserve. When I was speaking earlier and I went through freezing the rent, making buses fast and free, delivering universal childcare, the idea of making busing fast and free was not my idea. It was an idea that I had given to me in a meeting with another New Yorker who was passionate about transit, Alicia Singham Goodwin. When we were having meeting after meeting about our campaign to fix the MTA, we were soliciting people for advice of what do you think we should do. And I share this with you to say that I look at you and to everyone in this crowd as the potential source of the answer to how we actually reckon with it. So I have to say a few words in Luganda to begin, because I'm a New Yorker, I'm an American, and also Nimuna Uganda. I think it is wrong to accept any part in the Trump administration's deportation agenda. It is wrong. It should be opposed, and we should understand that the greatest responsibility is with this administration here, seeking to tear families apart across this country. We are in a city where 40% of New Yorkers were born outside of this country. I am one of those New Yorkers. And we know that while I am proud to be one of the first immigrant mayors of this city in generations, that representation in and of itself is insufficient. And so one of the key things that we can do here in New York City is to actually start to provide legal representation to New Yorkers in detention proceedings. There are tens of thousands of New Yorkers who are in immediate danger of deportation, and City Hall has only assisted fewer than 200. Fewer than 200. And the reason is not simply an illustration of our values that we are portraying that. It's because we know that this is effective. Just the mere act of having legal representation in that proceeding increases your likelihood to go home to your family by 11-fold. 11-fold. And so one of the first priorities of my administration will be to increase funding by tens of millions of dollars to scale up this program such that we do everything in our power to ensure that immigrant New Yorkers are not living in fear across this city. The first thing is we have to prepare for the inevitability of that deployment. We cannot try and convince ourselves that because something is illegal, Donald Trump will not do it. We have to be prepared, and we have to be clear-eyed. And we have to understand that it will take every single tool at our disposal. We saw in California the mayor of LA, the attorney general of the state, and the governor work together to fight back against the White House's deployment of the National Guard. They filed a lawsuit. A federal judge just recently found in their favor that the deployment of the National Guard was illegal. I give you this example because partnership is critically important in fighting back against Donald Trump. Can you imagine Andrew Cuomo working together with Tish James and Kathy Hochul to fight back against the deployment? Why would he fight back when it's Donald Trump that's trying to get him elected right now? But it's not enough to just file that lawsuit. We also have to ensure that we make clear that if Donald Trump is interested in helping New York, which is the premise of all of these deployments, of cleaning up our cities, he should undo the legislation that he has passed that is attacking this same city. Because when I meet New Yorkers, I hear from them how they already can't afford this place. I hear from them how it is further and further out of reach. And this legislation, this is going to tear the fabric of our city apart.
All right, brothers and sisters, I think what we have heard tonight from the questions, from Zohran, from me, these are unprecedented and difficult moments in our history. But you know what? This country has gone through difficult moments in the past. The essence of Trumpism is dividing us up. What we believe is bringing our people together. They are the 1%, we are the 99%. Let us stay together, let us defeat oligarchy, and make New York and America the places we know they can become.